we are going to learn about another exciting topic, which is globalization and the employment structure. This is a special video for the Key Stage 3. This video is hosted by Jinith and Jenil. So let's begin. Let's start off by listing some of the world's major professions.
Some of the professions are doctors, aeronautical engineers, bankers, chartered accountant, property manager, geologists, historian, astronaut, scientist, policeman, firefighter, painter, engineer, waiter, software developer, farmer, tailor, nurses, salespeople, and teacher.
Really good, Jenil. That was impressive. Now, let's know what does globalization mean. Globalization is the word used to describe the growing interdependence of the world's economies, cultures, and populations brought about by cross-border trade in goods and services, technology, and flows of investment, people, and information. Countries have built economic partnerships to facilitate these movements over many centuries. The wide-ranging effects of globalization are complex and politically charged, as with major technological advances. Globalization benefits society as a whole while harming certain groups. Understanding the relative costs and benefit can pave the way for alleviating problems while sustaining the wider payoffs. Now, let's see the 4 major employment sectors. Primary, the activities that produce food and raw materials from the environment, example farming and mining. Secondary, they involve making products, things, example building cars in a factory, steel industry, etc. Tertiary, they involve providing services, example police, teacher, nurse, etc. Quaternary, they involve development and research, example finance, accounting, and advertising. Now, let's see some of the employments in these 4 sectors. Number 1 in primary, water supply and forestry. Number 2 in secondary, fertilization production, paper making, textile production, iron and steel. Tertiary and quaternary are banks, publishing, estate agents, taxi firm. Now, let's see the differences between primary, secondary, and tertiary. The primary sectors obtain raw materials from the environment, example farming and mining. The secondary sector makes the raw materials obtained by the primary sector into finished goods, example steel and iron industry, paper industry, etc. The tertiary sector sells and publishes the products made by primary and secondary sectors, example publishing and finance, etc. What do you think this country is where this car is being manufactured?
Picture 1. This is MEDC because of its high technology equipment used to manufacture the cars. These machineries are extremely expensive and hence cannot be afforded by LEDCs. One of the keys to their development is their moderate climate, which allows natural resources to be exploited effectively and which is suitable for agriculture. These machineries are produced by extremely good secondary institutions in the country. These countries are rich countries because they have higher levels of gender equality, low birth rates and population growth, high employment levels, high levels of education, developed social security systems, developed health systems, access to technology, developed legal systems.
Brilliant, Jenil. Now let's see the second picture. Pause the video and have a go. What do you think this country is, Jenil?
Picture 2. This is a newly industrialized country like India. This is because these countries are now taking the initiative to employ a high number of people. NIC is a term used by political scientists an economist to describe a country whose level of economic development ranks it somewhere between developing and highly developed classifications. These countries are improving factors like low birth rate, low death rate, better infrastructure, and high levels of education, converting it into developed country.
Excellent, Janil. Now let's see the third picture. Pause the video and have a go. What do you think this country may be?
Picture 3. It is a LEDC. This is because the conditions there are extremely poor. Most of the people are employed in primary sectors and many are even unemployed. The citizens face extreme poverty. The death rates as well as birth rates are extremely high and minimum in infrastructure and education facilities, example Nigeria, Swaziland, etc. The raw materials created by the LEDCs are sold to MEDCs, more economically developed countries, in cheap prices.
Excellent, Janil. Now let's see a graph on these. Pause the video and have a go and think about where does all these line graphs go. So, primary is the red one, secondary is the yellow one, tertiary is the green one, and quaternary is the light blue one down in the bottom. Now let's see how this employment structure changes from time to time.
Employment structures can also change over time within the same country. In the UK, in 1800, most people would have been employed in the primary sector. Many people worked on the land and made their living from agriculture and mining. During the Industrial Revolution, more people worked in secondary sector. By 1900, over half of the workers in the UK were employed in secondary industries. Since during 1900, new machines were introduced that meant that fewer people were required to work on the land and in industry, as machines could carry out most of the work that people previously did. Foreign industries also became more competitive and imports such as coal became more affordable. As the availability of coal declined in the UK and also became more expensive to extract, more coal was imported. This led to a further decline in primary sector employment in the UK. Now, during the 21st century, people are now much more indulged in the tertiary sector, with only some person being involved in the primary sectors.
Excellent, Janil. That was really good. Now, let's have a look at some major keywords. Number 1. Imports and export. Import is to send goods or product from the home country to another country. Export is to obtain goods and products from one country to the home country. Number 2. Mechanization. The introduction of machines or automatic devices into a process, activity or place is called mechanization. Number 4. Investment. The action or process of investing money for profit. Let's see the employment structure in different countries. Employment structure in Ghana. Farming is very important because people often grow the food they eat. They may be developing their economic base and tourism may develop to lead the tertiary sector. Employment structure in Brazil. The economic industries are developing. There are still a large number of people employed in primary industries such as farming, a growth in factory and manufacturing while service industries start developing. Tourism provides a growing number of tertiary jobs. Number 3. The United Kingdom. Employment structure in the UK. Machineries has taken over jobs in the primary sector. Also, primary resources have been exhausted, example coal. The number of people employed in the secondary sector is falling. This is because Fewer people are needed to work in factories as robots are taking over jobs. Tertiary jobs increase in health, education, and tourism. Now, let's see the summary for all we have covered until now.
Employment structures vary between countries. Employment structures change over time and may change in the future.
Now, let's compare the employment structure of 3 different countries, which is USA, Brazil, and Nepal. The USA has the greatest 75% employed in the tertiary sector, while Nepal has 16% in the same sector. One reason for this is that rich countries majorly opt for tertiary and secondary sectors. However, less developed countries like Nepal have their major occupation in the field of primary sector, while on the other hand, United States has the fewest employed in primary sector, which is 2%, while Nepal has 81%. Brazil is in between with 23%. One reason for this is that the labor is equally distributed amongst all 3 sectors.
Outsourcing is a practice in which businesses employs other business or an individual to perform a task or provide services that were previously done or performed by an employee.
The problems of outsourcing. Outsourcing is difficult to implement and the failure rate of outsourcing relationships remain high. Depending on whom you ask, it can be anywhere from 40 to 70%. Sourced from Wikipedia. At the heart of the problem is the inherent conflict of interest in any outsourcing arrangement. The client seeks better service, often at lower cost than it would get doing the work itself. The seller, however, wants to make a profit. Another cause of outsourcing failure is the rush to outsource in the absence of a good business case. Outsourcing majorly uses cheap raw materials and displays its price extremely high. Also, during a number of times the staff are inexperienced in their particular job and the quality of service is very low. Today,
you should now appreciate that there are 3 main categories of employment type.
A fourth, high-tech quaternary sector can also be added.
Some organizations are involved in more than one employment sector.
Employment structures will vary over time. Generally, there is a decrease in primary and an increase in tertiary activities.
The future is a little unclear about what importance each sector will have in the UK. ICT will enable people to work from home and geographical mobility will also increase. Thank you.
We hope you loved this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.